Hi, everyone, and welcome to Red Flags, Cybersecurity for Small Businesses and Freelancers by Square Planet for the Editorial Freelancers Association. I'm Oliver Ray, the lead community engagement specialist for the EFA, and I'll be moderating today's session. We will be taking questions at the end, but please feel free to send any questions you may have in the chat, and I'll save them for our Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. Cameron Brister is one of our presenters today. Cameron is the CEO of Square Planet, a professional IT services firm based in Monroe, Louisiana. The company applies technology solutions to solve unique business challenges and day-to-day operational needs, helping businesses reach their goals. Square Planet makes technology easy with world-class IT support, enterprise-grade technology, and strategic technology planning, so partners can enjoy increased productivity and profitability while remaining secure from cybercriminals. Square Planet is a founding member of National Society of IT Service Providers, an organization that promotes honesty, integrity, and professionalism in the IT industry. Amelia Brister is our other presenter, and she serves as project manager at Square Planet, leading complex technology projects that improve access, security, and user experience for clients, including nonprofits and membership associations. She recently earned the Project Management Professional Credential from PMI, complementing more than 15 years working in academic libraries and higher education. Amelia holds a Master's of Library and Information Science from Louisiana State University and a BA in English from Louisiana Christian University. Today, they will be hosting a practical session designed to help you spot the warning signs of cyber threats before it's too late. In this presentation, you'll learn to identify red flags that signal your business may be at risk, common tactics cyber criminals use to exploit small businesses and independent professionals, best practices to keep your data and your clients safe, and more. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Amelia.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I hope that you are enjoying a nice evening or afternoon or perhaps morning, wherever you're joining us from, with your favorite cup of tea or coffee or beverage of your choice. I'm using my EFA mug. I'm going to shamelessly plug the swag of EFA that I purchased from their EFA store, and I'm sure Ollie can tell you where that store is located on the web. But it's definitely one of my favorites, so I wanted to share it with you all today. I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can go ahead and dive right in. So today we're looking at why cybersecurity matters for small businesses of every size, and how a few simple habits can provide powerful protection to you and your business. Cybersecurity isn't only about technology, it's about people and the people that we interact with every day. By building awareness and consistent daily habits, businesses can strengthen their defenses while also improving productivity with the tools that they already use, like Microsoft 365 and even AI platforms. Okay, my screen was lagging. This session is designed to help you spot the warning signs of cyber threats before it's too late. And today you'll learn to identify red flags that signal your business may be at risk, recognize common tactics cyber criminals use to exploit small businesses and freelancers. And you'll learn best practices to keep your data and your clients safe, as Ollie mentioned when he introduced us. And thank you, Ollie, for that amazing introduction. I appreciate it. So why are we talking about cybercrime? Cybercrime is costing small and mid-sized businesses billions each year. A record $16.6 billion was reported stolen through internet crime in 2024, up 33% from $12.5 billion in 2023, according to the FBI. And that's just in the United States. The agency's data is based on more than 859,000 reports from Americans and folks just like you, if you're located here in the US, submitted to its Internet Crime Complaint Center last year. Nearly half of all breaches target small businesses, And AI is fueling more sophisticated scams, phishing, and account takeover attempts than ever before. The message is simple. Every business is a target, no matter the size. But the good news is every business can take a few very simple steps to lower their risk. The cost of ignoring cybersecurity is high. A breach can mean lost revenue from downtime, data loss or theft, fines for non-compliance, and lawsuits. But perhaps most damaging is the loss of your customers' trust, which can take years to rebuild. Prevention will cost you far less than recovery, which is why it's smart to focus on just a few proactive habits. Scams are one of the most common ways that criminals get in. It's important to note that many scams are not reported, and the Federal Trade Commission estimated that when accounting for underreporting, as much as $195 billion was stolen from Americans through financial fraud in 2024. While there are many scams taking place, and likely half of you will experience an email, phone, or internet scam attempt of some type just this week, the threat of falling for a scam increases when busyness takes the place of vigilance. The very nature of business brings us into contact with folks we may not know personally. Most freelancers and small businesses operate at breakneck speed, whether you're working after hours on a side hustle or running a small business. The pace is likely breathtaking, leaving very little time and capacity for extra digital scrutiny. Clients and potential clients may call or email from unknown devices and accounts or try to send you materials from unknown links that could be legitimate, but it takes time to really look to see if it's legitimate. This can increase the risk to small businesses and freelancers. No one and no company is immune to cyber attacks, but we can be aware and watchful. Even Square Planet is not immune from scam attempts. Just a few months ago, one of our employees encountered just such an attempt when a text scam tried to impersonate Cameron, who is in our session today. This person asked the employee to help with a surprise for the team, so the conversation was to be kept secret. Already, you can probably spot the red flag, keeping the request a secret. He was instructed to pick up gift cards and immediately, that's another red flag word, immediately send the card numbers to Cameron over text message. While this is a fairly common scam, to see it happen in real time to someone we knew, it was just startling. And it reminded us that no one is immune to being a target. The scammer knew the employee's name, his phone number, and that he worked for Square Planet and reported directly to Cameron. None of that information is actually found on our website. So the employee immediately reported the scam to Cameron, who took the proper steps in reporting it to the authorities. According to the FBI and the Federal Trade Commission, imposter scams are on the rise, and they're the most anticipated scam of 2026. For example, scammers will call to say that they're a government agent and threaten to suspend your business license, fine you, or even sue you. They may say it's because you owe taxes or need to renew a license or registration. So let's be alert, maybe slow down just half a step, and be aware with these core habits. These 4 core habits are habits that every business should follow, and we'll dig deeper into each one on the coming slides. Recognize and report scams. Use strong, unique passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication. Keep your software updated. Businesses that adopt all four of these habits reduce their risk of a successful attack dramatically. These are simple, repeatable steps that anyone, anywhere can follow. With so many opportunities to fall for a scam, I promise that there is some good news. And the good news is that once you know the red flags, they are so easy to spot. Watch out for urgency, scare tactics, or unexpected links. These can show up in email, text, QR codes, or even fake social media messages. Something I want to underscore here is the common use of your social media profile and online activity to gather information about you. This is known as social engineering. When you freely give your information to the social media quiz to determine what your spirit animal is or which Disney character you are, scammers may gain access to that information. Be aware and cautious of any information that you're sharing, but especially if it's common information required to identify you, such as your birth date or your mother's maiden name. The best defense is to pause, double check, and tell your team when you spot suspicious activity. Alert your IT department or trusted technology partner of any suspicious activity you encounter. In, in some cases, reporting these to local law enforcement or the FBI is recommended. Reporting seems like a lot of extra hassle when we think about how little is likely to be recovered and how long an investigation may take. So why even report these scams? IT departments need to take immediate action to minimize data loss and limit the breach. IT professionals will need to know how the breach occurred so they can tighten the security so it doesn't happen again. If you're a victim of a scam, you will need to contact law enforcement for several reasons. There's a slight chance of recovery, but you are assisting in a record being created with law enforcement so that they can be aware and watchful for this type of behavior in the future. It's like adding a piece to a puzzle. In this way, you're helping the authorities find and prosecute the criminals. Every report of fraud by a victim is a valuable piece of data that can help law enforcement catch criminals and hold them accountable. Sharing your story can bring you support and relief. Dealing with deception brings so many emotions, from embarrassment, anger, frustration, to loneliness and despair. Recognizing and acknowledging these feelings is important. There are psychological benefits to reporting, if not to law enforcement, then to other entities that provide resources or reassurance, like the AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, where trained fraud fighting volunteers will listen to your story and offer next steps, including the best place to report the fraud. AARP also has free online fraud victim support groups. The trauma that people experience after a theft is real, and seeking support services can help. So, where should we report these scams to? It's easy to be confused about who to report the scams to. As previously mentioned, your IT professional should be your immediate first call. But who else should you report it to? If you're a victim of a financial scam, your bank should be alerted. They may also help facilitate contacting law enforcement or other agencies. Law enforcement should be one of your first contacts. They may help escalate cybercrimes to the FBI or other federal agencies. Filing a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center will assist them in spotting a pattern and connecting the dots to larger online scams. Notifying the Federal Trade Commission and Better Business Bureau can help keep others safe, as these organizations alert the public to trending scams, so you can be more watchful. And as I mentioned before, AARP has the helpline that you can also report scams to, so they can assist others in avoiding these cyber criminals and where you can get help. And if you're not sure, use the Learn Where to Report a Scam link on the USA.gov website that is linked later in the slide deck, so that you can know exactly where to report the scam to. The questionnaire takes about a minute to fill out. It's very easy, and then there's a list of folks to contact. So that was very helpful. So now let's turn our attention to passwords. As you've probably heard, strong passwords is another way to protect yourself and your business. Passwords are often the first line of defense, but they can also be one of the weakest if not done correctly. So make sure that you're using at least 16 characters, include a mix of symbols and numbers, and never reuse your passwords. So if you have asked someone to reset your password and they send you a temporary password, please go ahead and take a few minutes as soon as you get the password and you get into the system, and then reset that password to something that only you know or only your family knows. As Cameron says so often, we don't want to know your password, so please go ahead and change that. A password manager makes this easy, even for non-technical users. We recommend a product called Keeper or 1Password. Those are two really great apps that we use. You should avoid using predictable patterns such as birth dates, anniversary dates, pet names, years, or your children's names. Think of a strong password as locking the front door of your digital office. Over the past 5 years, bad actors have used social engineering, where your information is pulled from social media sites, and AI to fake kidnappings of family members and demanding ransom be sent electronically and immediately. Did you catch the red flag word here? Immediately. In these cases, the criminals may call from your child or grandchild's cell phone number. They may tell you that they have your family member, and to prove it, they send you an AI-generated video or sound clip of them saying something like, "Help me," or "I'm scared." The stress of the situation lowers your guard and makes it more likely that you will comply without your usual skepticism. This is sometimes called virtual kidnapping or the grandparent scam. Regardless, the stress of the situation lowers your defenses. We recommend you have a family password, something common to your family, so you can remember it during a stressful time. Our mental capabilities decrease when we're under stress and are further impacted when we are forced to make a critical decision when under a deadline. So make it something you will remember. Additionally, don't advertise your password on social media, as this information may be more easily accessible. And I mention that because as I was researching for this presentation today, there are blogs that talk about family passwords and then tell you what the family password is. So don't do that. Remember, it's a password, keep it secret. If younger children are in your family, make the password age appropriate, like the name of a favorite teddy bear. I recommend verbally conveying the password to family members and reviewing it with each other in person or on a call at least once a week. More often if the password changes, as it may change over time, until there's no hesitation of what that password is. I hope you never face a virtual kidnap, ransom demand, or scam. But if you do, a few things to keep in mind. If possible, record the call. Take notes that you can pass on to authorities, like the time of day, the scammer's behavior, any other details that you can gather. Was the caller male or female? Was there an accent? Have another family member immediately try to call the person that has been virtually kidnapped. If they cannot get in touch with that person, call their friends or their school or their place of work to further try to get in touch with them, and also alert the authorities. Passwords are an important first step to securing your data, but passwords alone are not effective as they have become too easy for threat actors to access. For this reason, we recommend multi-factor authentication, or MFA. MFA is an important security enhancement that requires a user to verify their identity by providing more than just a username and password. It requires a user to also provide a combination of two or more of the following: something that you know, like a password or a PIN number, something that you have, like a smart card or a security key. Sometimes these are called hardware tokens. Something that you are, like your fingerprint or your Face ID. Also, these are also called biometrics. MFA is one of the most effective tools available, blocking nearly all common account takeover attempts. The best options are authenticator apps, biometrics, or hardware tokens. You should avoid text message codes or SMS codes when possible. They're easier for attackers to intercept. And always remember, never ever approve an MFA request if you yourself did not initiate it. Now let's talk about digital immune systems. Um, think of software updates as your digital immune system. They close security gaps before attackers can exploit them. While it may feel time-consuming, these updates are extremely important. They are in part the software company's response to a possible security breach, which will make your security and your system stronger. So go ahead, turn on those automatic updates, make sure all your devices are covered, and that includes your computer, your phone, all of the apps on your phone, all of the apps on your computer. Even printers need to have these automatic updates. And restart devices regularly so updates can take effect. I was the world's worst about not ever restarting my machine until I got into the habit of restarting my computer at the end of each workday, so that I started the day fresh with the latest and greatest updates. So I do recommend that you restart your computer at the end of each workday so you too can get the benefit of the latest and greatest updates available to you as you begin your next work session. Security does not stop at the basics. It extends to the tools you use every day. For Microsoft 365, enable MFA for all accounts. Use the built-in protections like Defender and Safe Links, and review file sharing and external access. Please refrain from giving indefinite access to your files to anyone, but rather set an expiration date on the access that others outside your organization have, and verify the identity of that person who is requesting access. Remember, you can always extend access, but recalling data after it's in the hands of a bad actor is much more difficult, and many times it's impossible. So be cautious there. For AI tools like ChatGPT, please don't share sensitive company data or personal information. If you're using an AI tool's free accounts, the likelihood is high that the data you are putting into those tools is being stored and reused, which also makes it easier for bad actors to obtain it. So use it extra caution. You will also want to make sure that you double check outputs of your AI tools for accuracy, and when possible, use enterprise solutions such as a managed Copilot account or a managed ChatGPT account. Using these tools securely makes your business both more productive and safer. You and your employees should engage in regular cybersecurity training sessions. Square Planet offers weekly 5-minute training sessions to all of our clients. While some companies require employees to engage in annual cybersecurity training events, we find that training sticks and is much more impactful in regular, small, bite-sized sessions. Cyber101.com and Amazon offer free cybersecurity awareness training that we recommend if you're looking for a free solution. Technology is important, but businesses are about people, and people are your strongest line of defense. Building a security culture means making safe habits second nature. These habits include providing regular training opportunities for employees, making it safe to report suspicious activities, and encouraging awareness across the team. Even if you're a team of one, make sure that you're staying up to date with security training and security best practices for attending webinars such as this one. Make sure you model good habits with your team and with your family to create a safe see something, say something environment for reporting these suspicious activities. When security is part of your culture, it will stick. Cybersecurity does not have to be overwhelming. It starts with small, consistent actions. Our training in cybersecurity, AI, and Microsoft 365 is designed to make your team more secure and productive, turning awareness into action. Alongside training, focus on quick wins like reviewing your passwords and MFA, encouraging employees or family members to report scams, and make sure that your updates, your software updates, are in place. Together, these steps provide lasting protection for your business and your family. We're providing this slide deck to EFA so that you have access to it and the resources that we've mentioned throughout our presentation. And I would like to thank Ollie for facilitating, and most of all, you, the EFA membership, for joining us today. I'm now going to turn it over to Ollie and Cameron for any questions that you may have dropped in the chat, and I have really enjoyed hanging out with you all today.
Thank you so much, Amelia. That was such a great presentation. Yes, allowed for a round of applause. We we had one question in the chat that I see Cameron already got an answer to. Aisha was asking about which ad blocker extension you guys recommend, and Cameron mentioned EFF's Privacy Badger and uBlock are both great. Thank you for getting that there, Cameron. And then, oh, I
I
don't
wanted
think
to mention too the EFF is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they are basically a nonprofit that focuses on defending, free speech, but also digital privacy. And so that's a an open source plugin, the EFF's Privacy Badger plugin for your web browser is a great tool for that. It's not 100%. We also mentioned uBlock. uBlock is, none of it is 100%, but we like to explain security, cybersecurity specifically, is kind of like an onion. It's layers of the onion. Every little bit, plays a part. And so, yeah, blocking unnecessary cookies definitely, and tracking cookies definitely helps.
Absolutely. This is a great chance now. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and ask, or also feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'm happy to read them. I'm gonna give it a moment. Cameron, I'd like to ask a question. What's like the most common misconception you see about cybersecurity?
You know what? I think the biggest misconception that we hear, and I can't even tell you the number of times that we have heard this, is, oh, the scammers don't care about me. I'm too small. My business is too small to care about, or I'm just an individual. I don't have anything to get. And unfortunately, the sad part about that is oftentimes individuals, freelancers, small businesses are the most vulnerable because oftentimes they don't have those dedicated resources in IT and cybersecurity looking out for them, right? And you know, AI is a two-edged sword. Can be a fantastic tool, but also it's a fantastic tool for the bad guys. And with the proliferation of AI tools combined with access to publicly available data that can be used to craft, very convincing scams that are very individualized in a breakneck speed. Yeah, it's really easy, and it's so much of it can be automated, and it's not a person. Well, if you think about a lot of times in the movies, you see the hacker, the scammers behind a computer typing away. It's like this can happen at such large scale, kind of in the background in an automated fashion that yeah, everyone is everyone is a target. And again, like I say, the individuals, freelancers, small businesses are often the easiest targets simply because they don't have that dedicated IT professional watching their back.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I've also heard that. I'm not even an IT professional. So, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
While we're waiting on that too, I wanted to mention one of the things, talk about passwords and multi-factor authentication. It's becoming a lot more common today to see sites that offer the use of passkeys. So particularly if you're in the Google ecosystem, Gmail has recently started promoting pretty heavily the use of passkeys to sign in. And a passkey can be actually more convenient and more secure than just the traditional password and multi-factor setup. So a passkey, not to get too technical with it, but it's bound to a device or an application that you have tied it to. So if you're using one of the password managers that we recommend, such as Keeper or 1Password, you can store a passkey in the password manager and use that to sign into a website, but it's scoped specifically to only work from that password manager, right? Or if you're using the Microsoft Authenticator app, using passkeys for your Microsoft 365 account, it's tied to that specific device. So there's no, you can't share your password with anyone. There's no password to get, it requires your device, and then that second factor being like a biometric, such as a Face ID or a Touch ID, right? Something, a fingerprint, things like that. So that's something else too, that as you see a passkey being offered, um, you should definitely consider using that. The the gotcha from a technical standpoint that is often confusing to someone who's not used to using that technology, particularly if you don't use a password manager, is it's device bound. And so when you get a new device, you typically have to re-enroll the new device into that. That's why we like using password managers, because whether you're using a username and password combination or a passkey, um, as long as you've got that account and you're signed into your phone and your laptop or whatever it is you're using, that information is shared across all devices, but it's still secure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We had a question come in the chat. Someone asked, any hints on how to easily identify email-based scams that have been written by ChatGPT? I'm thinking about the Nigerian prince variants that writer Beware has been reporting on.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that particular article there, but that is a very good question. So again, as I mentioned earlier, AI is fantastic because it allows us to become more productive and in a lot of ways, and then it also allows those scammers to look more legitimate much faster and much more easily. The very first part of good cyber hygiene from an email standpoint is if you don't recognize the sender, certainly be very wary of clicking any links or if you don't recognize it, particularly an attachment, you definitely don't want to open any attachment from someone that you're not expecting it from. The other thing too is a lot of times the built-in security tools in, like if you're using Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, for example, if you're using a business email, or using Gmail through Google Workspace, some of the built-in spam filtering and malware filtering is just not quite as good as you can get with third-party solutions. So, for example, all of our clients, we use a third-party plugin that actually scans each email that is sent and received, and it runs it through a number of different scanning engines to detect that. And so the big thing is it kind of goes back to the basics though. If you're not expecting an email from someone, don't be quick to follow that link or open the attachment. Back to what Amelia said earlier, oftentimes, even with AI generated content, you'll see that sense of urgency, right? You'll see the example where someone says, hey, I need you to wire some amount of money and I need it now, right? If you're in the business world, sometimes it's not uncommon to wire large sums of money. And a lot of times if they're getting an email from someone high up in the company, the CEO or the CFO, and hey, you're just going to do it, you're not going to question that. On a more personal level, like Amelia mentioned, if you're receiving an email about, hey, your taxes are past due, or we're gonna arrest you, put you in jail if you don't pay your taxes, things like that. Just always be wary of the immediacy of that. Always make sure to check the email address too. It's not uncommon to have what are called lookalike domains that look like Microsoft.com, but there's just one character that's slightly different. This is in a different glyph, right? That looks like it, but it's not. So just be careful of that.
Yeah, the immediacy is always a red flag to me, 100%.
Yep.
We had another question come in. Someone said, didn't I hear recently that some tech guy said password standards should have been multiple words, not random characters? Have you heard that?
What was the question again?
That passwords should be multiple words rather than just random characters.
So that is commonly advised, and really the core of that gets down to the length of the password. So it really isn't as much about the complexity of the password, particularly with AI and with the technology that's available today. It really comes down to the length of the password. And so if you use a passphrase, which is words combined, sometimes you maybe, include a dash between the words or whatever, you're able to have, if you're trying to remember a password, which you shouldn't be because you should be using a password manager that, randomizes everything. But basically, it's much easier to remember a long phrase, versus 60 random characters. It's much easier to remember a phrase that maybe has 3 or 4 words.
I see. Following up on that, I see the question that came before, but this is related, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. Someone asked, how secure are password managers? If someone hacks a password manager, they'd have access to all our passwords, not just one or some of them.
That is correct. Yep. So definitely the very first thing that we recommend is password managers have typically what they call a master password, right? That's the key that holds it's the key to the kingdom, right? So you want that to be a very, very strong password. I personally only know of, I think 2 passwords. One is to my password manager, which is 35 characters. And then there is the password to my computer, right? Outside of that, I don't know passwords. There are protections you can have in place with your password manager. that can prevent access from countries outside of your own. So if you're based here in the US, you're probably not expecting someone to sign in from Germany to your account. So you can block access from, outside of the country that you reside in or that you travel to regularly. There's also multi-factor authentication involved. So for instance, if you're signing into that password manager on a new device, not only do you have to have your username and your password, but typically there's a second factor, right? Whether that's a security key that you've set up previously or an access code that is separate from your password. So even if someone were to get your account, your username and your password, typically they wouldn't be able to sign into your password manager with just those two pieces of information. You may have to have another device that you already have configured and is an approved device that maybe you have to approve access from that device. There's always that second factor there.
Yeah, yeah. Second factor authentication is a bit harder to get past when you
Right.
need the other device or the. We had another question. Someone said, I've seen scams where they redirect you to a Canva document that looks like an invoice or whatever they're trying to get you to pay. Does Canva or any business take their own actions against bad actors like this?
Oh, that's a very good question. And unfortunately, a lot of services like that offer, public sharing links or access that fall to that. They do typically have, most large companies like that have a trust and safety team that you can report things like that to. I'll give you an example here. Recently, personally, I have been the recipient of several unsolicited meeting invitations, Zoom meeting invites from someone I don't know. They've scraped my email address from some list somewhere. And rather than sending me a cold email, they're literally adding me to a Zoom webinar that starts in just a couple of hours. So there's not a whole lot of time for it to be reported and shut down in advance. But every time, for instance, that's happened to, I think, 3 times here recently, maybe 4 in the last couple of months. I'll go report that to Zoom's Trust and Safety Center, and they always process that pretty quickly. So most of those large companies like Canva or Adobe or anything like that where that's being abused, absolutely go search for Canva Trust and Safety or whatever the company's name is, and it's very likely you'll find a way to submit that, and that'll help them track those bad actors down.
Awesome, yeah. Um, I'm not seeing more questions in the chat. Um, oh. Do you have any like resource recommendations for staying up to date with cybersecurity, Cameron? Like a Substack that you like to follow, or maybe an Instagram account?
That's a great question. I don't have specifically Substack or Instagram. Any resources just off the top of my head that I would say would be great for this audience? Certainly, we have a number of different feeds that we follow that are a little more geared to security professionals. But definitely in the presentation that Amelia will share, we have a couple of links. One of those is to USA.gov that will help guide you to, where should you report a scam. There's also links in there to a couple of online resources, free resources for cybersecurity awareness training that's totally free. You don't have to have an account. One of them is through Amazon, and it's really quick and easy. Those are definitely some resources I would start with.
And I would like to add that AARP, even though I don't fall in the category of being the right age for AARP, they have a lot of resources online, and they are great about writing articles in layman's terms for non-technical professionals like me, and just keeping you aware of the trending scams so that it's at the forefront of your mind when that spam call comes in that says your husband is in the hospital and you have to pay his copay right now, which is a scam we recently saw in our area that just, I mean, it was like wildfire in North Louisiana, of people trying to scam our friends and relatives out of, $1,200, $1,500. The threshold was low enough that You may not think twice about it because they're in the emergency room. They need care right now, and we cannot take care of your loved one until you pay this amount. And your guard just immediately drops because of fear and anxiety. But that is one scam that AARP made aware to its audience. And then we have the Better Business Bureau that also is very good about making sure you're aware of what's going on in your area as well.
And that's one thing just to highlight, what Amelia mentioned earlier, is that ongoing kind of continuous training, just to keep it top of mind. For anyone who's worked in the corporate world, historically, cybersecurity training was a checkbox where, once a year you had to do some hour-long or 2-hour-long training session that was boring. It would bore you to tears, and it would stick for about 12 hours, and then it's totally gone and you don't think about it again for another year. And that's where keeping the top of mind with engaging content, I think Amelia mentioned earlier, we use a cybersecurity training platform that just focuses on a regular bite-sized chunk. So once a week, you get a notification right to your inbox that has a quick little video. It's 2 to 3 minutes and a 4-question quiz. So it's very doable. It's designed to take less than 5 minutes a week, but really the power of that is keeping that top of mind. And it can be very topical because, whatever's happening in the world, whatever the current trends are, it can kind of focus on that, right? Versus that once a year, let's just, bore me to tears cybersecurity training.
Speaking of training, Cameron actually helps the EFA staff with that, and that occasionally he'll send a spammy email that if you click it, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have clicked that. And remember next time. And so now, anytime any member of EFA staff gets a scammy email, we're like, Cameron sent another one of those. And I don't even know if it's Cameron. It could be an actual scam. But none of us click them now because we're always like, oh, it's Cameron. Uh, but yeah, if I could ask one more question, I'm not seeing anything else come up in the chat. If there was like one action item people could take away from this, like they turn this Zoom off and they immediately go do this like loaded barrier cybersecurity action, what would you think they should do to keep themselves like most safe?
For me, it would be to take this knowledge, take this, awareness or this refresher here and share it with somebody. Share it with your family, share it with your friends, help spread the word and just remind people, it's so easy to get busy in day-to-day life and work, and oftentimes, people, particularly freelancers, anybody who's run a small business or owns a small business or is a freelancer knows that sometimes it can be lonely and you don't necessarily have a lot of that interaction. And sharing that with somebody that maybe otherwise would not, come across this content, would not come across this topic, I think would be a huge thing and would go a long way to increase general awareness.
Absolutely. I really like that. Yeah.
And I would
Good.
love to piggyback off of what Cameron just said. And I saw something come through the chat earlier about helping to keep our older loved ones safe. And that's very top of mind for me because of the age of my parents and the folks in our family. And I would say to make those security conversations just a low hanging fruit, low stakes part of your everyday interaction with them, because this is a generation where the librarian's coming out in me, so forgive me for that. But this is a generation where if it was in print when they were younger, it went through so many sets of hands and so many sets of eyes, and it was actually fact checked. And now information is coming through at the speed of light in print, and there's no reason that they are questioning, is it legitimate information? So to have those conversations, what about this makes it not real? What about this lends legitimacy to it? And I feel like that will help us safeguard our older generation.
Yeah. Just to piggy off that too, we were mentioning resources. check out, like, talk to your local library. So many of them have free programs, free classes. I'm sure at least some of them have free cybersecurity classes. Your local library, and if they don't and you want it, like, they're probably happy to host it for you. So yeah, and Amelia was a library, so like I'm getting a yes from a librarian. Go ask them. Um, yes, no, libraries are also. I did a long internship in high school at my one of my bigger libraries, and it was amazing all the resources we were able to provide. And it's sad how many people don't realize that they're there. So, um, yeah, this has been so great. Thank you guys so much for doing this presentation with us. Thank you, everybody, for attending and asking questions. Um, Getting to host these events for our active, wonderful community at the EFA is my favorite part of the job. And I also love getting to work with Amelia and Cameron. They're always so lovely and so helpful. And I'm so glad that they were able to share some of their insight with you all. But yeah, thank you guys all so much.